Welcome back, troglodytes, to the Trogly's Guitar Show. Today we're featuring a 1991 Celebrity Series SG. Now, unfortunately, this is another one of those crooked seller videos, so we're going to go over why this guitar is not staying with me, as well as some of the history behind this mysterious Celebrity Series of guitars. Alright, so first off, let's get the drama out of the way. I bought this guitar on eBay. The listing read that it was a 1992 Celebrity Series edition, which it's not, it's from 1991. And the guy's had it for around 20 years, and he hasn't played it for the last 10 except for here and there. And then he goes on to say about just how good it sounds and how it feels, and that the pickups are like none other. Okay, standard sales pitch here. He says the neck is ebony with a 59 style kind of feel. What he meant there is that the fretboard is ebony, not the neck. The neck is actually mahogany. And he is right, it does have a very interesting 59 style feel. He then went on to say that he added the Maestro tailpiece to it and that the neck pickup has a dent in it. He also disclosed that there is a bunch of cracked finish underneath, which basically just means some finish checking. So from that description, I knew I needed to be looking at the photos of this guitar. The first one showed that it was in an aftermarket case. It's a Gibson gear case, but still a very quality case. The next one is a far away shot from the front, and then a far away from the back, where you can see it's got some buckle rash. And then we have a little bit more close-up of the body, as well as the back again, and then a look at the headstock. And then the back of the headstock looks kind of scratched up. And then we see where he added the vibrola, and you can see in this photo where the initial stop tailpiece would have been installed. Next, he's trying to demonstrate some of the finish checking. So from those photos and description, I expected, a guitar that's got some player's wear. It's not going to be perfect, and that's kind of what showed up. And I would not be sending this one back if it wasn't for one main flaw. This whole body has been refinished. Now, I knew this before I even hit this thing under blacklight, because if you look right here, the neck finish is completely different than the body. The body has this nice glossy stark black finish, whereas you can tell this neck finish is slightly older because it has a slight green hue to it. And what that is the clear coat naturally aging. This should be an even color throughout the whole guitar. This whole body has been refinished. So why would somebody refinish a body the exact same color? Well, pretty much the only thing I can tell you is because of a heel break. Now, I can't see anything for 100% sure, but right here, there is what looks like the heel break crack. So this guitar had to have been repaired at the heel joint and refinished in order to hide that. Heel breaks are very common on SGs because there's just not a lot of wood where the neck set is. The next thing that I find a little bit shady from the seller is there is a huge ding here in the finish where it's just completely missing. You might even be missing a little bit of wood, but that was conveniently covered by the stand he had this guitar on. Now, I'm sure that's just an oversight, but I might be giving him the benefit of the doubt there. The other mysterious thing about this guitar is it does not have the Celebrity Series decal on it. The Celebrity Series guitars had a square decal with a top hat and a cane that said Celebrity Series on it. So I'm not quite sure why this one doesn't have one. I believe the finish is original on the neck, but it could be that this also has a headstock repair at one point in time, and they refinished over it, and then the body was refinished at a different time. Blacklight tests aren't 100% foolproof, because this really can't tell me if this is 100% the original finish. It sure does glow a lot, which makes me believe that, but it's very suspicious that the Made in USA stamp and the Celebrity Series decal is gone. Alright, so once I knew the body had been refinished, I knew I couldn't keep this guitar for the price I had paid. So I reached out to the seller with a return request. I essentially told him that there's been a heel crack repair to this guitar and the whole body was refinished to hide that. I also told him that the cracks he was talking about under the finish are not real finish checking lines. It feels like somebody was trying to age this thing with a razor blade, because the lines on this guitar are very deep. You can feel them. I explained the blacklight test to him to prove how I knew this, and then from there I kindly requested that I could return this guitar. Now, in most situations, the sellers don't even know this. This probably happened before the guy even owned it. So I told him, I realized that this was probably before your time of owning the guitar, and that if he's going to sell this again, please be sure to disclose this, because he does know now. The seller does approve my request, but gets a little bit snippy at me, telling me to never buy from him again in the future. You know, I could get it if I was saying something like, oh, I just didn't like the guitar, I want to send it back. A repair and a refinish is a huge deal to a guitar's value. So I just kind of took his response with a grain of salt, and it's like, okay, it's going back, that's all that matters. I don't want to buy from this guy again anyways. Now, as per eBay's rules, if something is sent that is not as described, the seller does have to pay for return shipping. This guy did not like that idea, and he's just getting upset because I am a guitar dealer, and at that point, I just kind of get upset with this guy. And I tell him, I tried to be nice. I gave you the benefit of the doubt that you didn't know this guitar was repaired. I gave him the chance to make it right by accepting a return and providing a return label. I'd even told him I wasn't going to leave negative feedback because I believe this was an honest mistake. I even would have helped this guy sell the guitar if he wouldn't have been getting snippy with me. However, all this guy gives me is hostility and being upset because I'm not a guitar player. And I told him he should be nothing but apologetic. I mean, take some of these examples. I had an SG that got damaged in shipping. The person texted me. Instantly, I was apologetic and I resolved the situation. You never place the blame on the buyer, even if you don't agree with their reasoning. I saw he had relisted this guitar, and I told him I have no problem sending it directly to the next buyer if he can refund me before I send it out, because I didn't know how eBay's policies would work with that. So that's kind of the end of the kerfuffle on this one. The guitar will be sent back. He did eventually provide me with a return label. And once again, I would have had no problem keeping this guitar in this condition if it hadn't been refinished and repaired. Yes, it does have a little bit more wear and tear than I was expecting, mainly this chip right here, but I can touch that up fairly easily. But besides that, unfortunately, it has to go back. This is a really cool guitar though. So the Celebrity series is a guitar series mainly built in 1991. You're gonna see it quoted a lot online that they were only made in 1991, and there were 200 of each made. That's for the most part true, but I've seen a few that were made in early 1992, as well as a replacement Firebird that was made in 1993. So there were 4 Celebrity models. They had a 61 reissue SG, which is this one, a Les Paul Classic, a Firebird V, and a Chet Atkins model. All these guitars had a tuxedo theme. They had a jet black finish with white pick guards, they had white truss rod covers, and they had white knobs. The Les Paul Classic also had double white bobbin pickups, which I thought was a nice add-on. All of the original pick guards said Celebrity on them. You can see on the SG, it is right on the neck tenon cover area. And another claim to fame for these ones is the Ebony Fretboard. Most 61 reissue SGs don't have Ebony Fretboards. Most Les Paul Classics don't either, or Firebirds, or the Chet Atkins model. So that made that extra special. They also had a special decal on the back of the headstock. Why this one doesn't have it, I don't know. These guitars were originally issued with a certificate of authenticity. That's before they actually started doing that with most of the custom shop models as well, so that's kind of significant. But the certificate said this is a design that Gibson hasn't tried before and will never do again. I find that kind of funny because they did actually reissue it again for a replacement of a Firebird V in 1993. However, that one got a rosewood fretboard instead of ebony. So as far as why Gibson made one called the Celebrity Series, I couldn't really find any information out there. These weren't like built for celebrities or anything. It was just they were going for the tuxedo vibe. They had the black and the white, and they were just really nice looking guitars. Now, obviously this one has an added trem unit on it. It didn't normally come with that, but I think that makes this guitar look even fancier. Personally, I find these Celebrity Series guitars to be very attractive. They don't command huge premiums, but I have never seen a Celebrity Les Paul for sale in a while. I've definitely seen one online before, but I guess I didn't really realize that it was part of a series or anything. I definitely want to find one of those for a review, because the early classics are awesome enough as it is without all the limited edition appointments. So yes, I would suggest checking out a Celebrity Edition SG. This SG weighs 8 pounds, 1.3 ounces. And the neck really is almost a 59 profile. Most SGs have these really thin necks. This one's got a little bit of beef to it. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at the true condition of this guitar. Alright, so the face of the headstock is in pretty good shape from far away, but you really got to get the light on it to see all these imperfections that it does have. There's lots of light scratches, and you have your typical shrinking lines around the Gibson logo. There's also a lot of cracking to the lacquer around those shrink lines. So honestly, I think this looks a lot worse in person than it's really showing up on camera here. But for the most part, the face of the headstock is respectable. You have your original Celebrity Series truss rod cover. You can see it says SG, and it is a triple ply white, black, white material. Once again, you do have a mahogany neck with a kind of almost a 59 feel to it, with an ebony fretboard. Now the ebony fretboard is why this guitar is kind of extra special, because you normally don't find an ebony board on a 61 reissue styled SG. The frets are your typical 90s frets. They're not super jumbos, but they're still very easy to bend on, and they do have a good height to them. There is some minor divoting to the frets, but for the most part, definitely still playable for a while yet. Now we'll go on to the body. First, we'll start right here. This kind of looks like a finish check, but when you run your nail along it, it is very apparent that somebody tried to age this finish using the razor blade method. I think it looks really bad on this guitar, because it just looks like somebody took their keys and was scratching this guitar. Most finish checking you can see like this, but you can't actually feel a deep groove with your nail. You might be able to feel a little bit, but this is clearly an attempted age job. And you can see it is all over this guitar. Now luckily you can only see most of this in bright lighting situations, but it is there, and it's not under the finish like the seller was saying. It's actually just slashes into the finish. Here you can see where the original pickguard says Celebrity on it, and I believe the neck pickup has been replaced. You can see it's got a big ding in it. In 1991, they were using like the 490 series and the 498T. And the bridge pickup, I believe, is correct. It still has that patent number on it like they used on Tim Shaw's. But it's from my understanding that it's around 92 to 93 when they start using the Gibson USA stamp. And this neck pickup has it. Now it's possible that this is just transitional, but I'm guessing this pickup has been replaced, judging by the control cavity. It just looks like that one might have been touched up. It does have an ABR1 bridge, and originally would have had a stop tail piece, as you can see right here where the original hole is. Here you can see the original white knobs as well, and there's no cracks that I know of by the output jack. Alright, back of the headstock. Serial number looks like 92261388. Once again, there is no Made in USA stamp that I can see, and the Celebrity Series decal is missing. So that kind of makes me think there might be some foul play around the headstock, but I can't see any cracks. It's possible this one just made it out of the factory without it. But again, I have no real explanation here. There is a large chip in the finish, and I think a little bit of wood is missing, but that's pretty easy to touch up. But you have finish checking on the headstock as well. That's right there, and this is the real stuff. It's not fake aging like most of the other ones on this guitar. So I'm guessing somebody was trying to age the body finish to look more similar to the neck's finish. You can see this finish checking line that kind of runs all the way down. I mean, it's definitely worrisome, but I don't know for sure if there's been a repair. You also have your common lines that form along the binding. That's usually because that's where the binding truly ends and the neck begins, so sometimes you'll get that line there. So I really don't think there's any splits up the neck or anything, but there might be a headstock repair. I'm not 100% sure on this one. Besides that, the neck's in pretty good shape. You've got some light finish checking and some light dings and impressions, but it's definitely still playable. Now the heel joint's a little scary to look at here. You can see there's a very clear line that looks like a crack. What I think that is when they were spraying the body, that is the new finish over top the old finish, and then it just kind of got some white in between it to make it look like a crack. There you can see the finish checking around here. And on the other side, this is what I think is the real crack right there, the true place where it was repaired at, because that just feels a little deeper than everything else. And here you can kind of see that color difference I was talking about, how this is slightly more green and this is definitely black. The back of this guitar has also been knifed, as you can see, and this one looks terrible in my opinion. Finish checking just doesn't look like that. One straight line like that. The sides of the guitar also has some wear. And the strap buttons are Schaller strap blocks. So overall, if it wasn't for this guitar having a refinish and a repair, I would say, it's in good player's grade shape. It still is a player's grade guitar, but now it's a repaired guitar and falls in a completely different category. I still believe the seller didn't know this. He got scammed 20 years ago when he bought this guitar, and it's just unfortunate that I had to be the bearer of bad news and he took that out on me. Now the blacklight test is very important on this one. Again, I knew this was refinished before I even did the blacklight test, but this helped me know for sure. So let's take a look at the headstock here. You can see it's kind of got a nice green glow to it. That's what you're looking for. A blacklight test will show you if there's been a finish touch-up. Again, they're not 100% foolproof, because if the whole guitar was refinished at the same time, it won't glow as much. However, you can kind of do some deductive reasoning based on how old the guitar is, how much it should glow based off of its condition. So headstock's looking good. Now the body is not glowing at all. This is not what you want to see. This tells you this has all been refinished. It should have the same green color glow to it. Now the back of the neck, again, it does glow the way I think it should, but the lack of a Made in USA stamp is kind of strange on this one, as well as the lack of the decal on the back of the headstock for the Celebrity series. So I don't have a good explanation for that. It's possible it made it out of the factory without them. Now, I'm not seeing any true breaks, cracks, or repairs to the headstock, but you can see where there is some stand rash. But no major areas of worn off finish. Here you can see another stand impression line. But here, clear as day, the body has been refinished. This is what this should look like. This mix match means you have a refinish. Red flag, do not buy. At full price anyways. This is why everybody should own a blacklight. Not everybody has such a keen eye that they can tell the difference between the two black finishes. I know at a guitar show, I think most people would be fooled by this guitar and they would buy it. But this is why you own a blacklight, because without it, this would have been really hard to prove that this thing had been refinished. But it's clear as day under blacklight, as you can see right here. And the only reason to refinish an SG body in the exact same color that it is if it has a heel repair, or maybe these scratches are actually real cracks in the body. Again, I don't have a 100% answer. I can only do this based on some speculation. This guitar comes in an aftermarket Gibson case. This is the type that Gibson sells on their own. They brand them Gibson Gear instead of USA. This version has 4 latches on the front side and a single handle. And the interior is a very dark charcoal color. It's pretty much just as good as any other Gibson case, and it does protect the guitar well. You've got adequate heel support as well as a double neck rest. If you think you might be interested in this limited edition SG, I'll post the link down to the original seller's listing where you can purchase this one. And if you need help finding another guitar, feel free to contact me on my Facebook page, facebook.com/Troglys, Troglys. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care.